Welcome to the Stories of Northern Life podcast from the Sault Ste. Marie Museum. Our heritage in Northern Ontario, especially in the Algoma district, is full of many culturally rich stories in everyday life. This episode features a historical interview with Alvin Thomas, a superintendent of Great Lakes Power. Alvin recounts early memories and other stories around the base camp used by the 49th Heavy Anti-Aircraft Regiment at Mamans Point.
So you used to visit down there quite a bit?
Oh yeah, and I used to go down to the army camp that was there. Did you know there was a full army camp there?
No.
2 miles past Mamans Harbor. Every summer, either the Canadian Army or the American Army, be booked all summer, would shoot anti-aircraft guns. It was a full training range. It's been used there for years by the military. And the United States Army used to use 75 millimeter Skysweeper anti-aircraft guns, and they would shoot at drones pulled by DC-3s used to fly out of Camp Lucas, or they would shoot at these radio control planes called RCATs. RCATs were, they had a wingspan of maybe 14 feet in diameter. They were red, and they had a big gas engine. They're launched off a ramp, and they'd fire out with anti-aircraft guns, and then when they're hit, they would automatically shut off, and a parachute access would open up and they'd go down in the water. And there was what was called a crash boat, which was harbored at Mamans Harbor, and it would go out towards the end of the day and pick up these planes, bring them in, they'd all float, bring them in, they'd repair them, send them up again.
Oh, when was this?
Excuse me.
Yes?
Your blue chalk, does it weigh more than 4,500 kilograms?
I'm sorry, I wouldn't know, June. The big blue one? I wouldn't say so. No, 8,000 pounds, never. Don't think so. And used to be very interesting.
But when was it they had this?
This is when I was young. Well, it was 10 years ago. This would be 30 years ago.
30 years ago?
And the Canadian Army used to shoot 90 millimeter anti-aircraft guns there. And then when they were down for a few days, see these 75 millimeter guns were all radar controlled. And they would have all boxes on the guns on a gun carriage. The fellows would sit in the seats, and it would just operate automatically. And so the radar would pick up the target, and the gun would follow. Safety officer would watch behind him. Boom, boom, boom. Had 2 racks, 75 millimeter shells, and they'd go right at her. I saw one day, I don't know if the safety officer would sleep at the switch, but see these drones that they would pull would be big red drones, like a screen door material. It was made of metal, but it'd be towed by a metal cable, and this damn radar followed up the cable, and they let go, and they just about took the ass end off the DC-3, put a bunch of holes in it. Well, the plane returned to Camp Lucas, and I'll tell you, you want to see that camp sharpen up at Mamans Harbor and spit and polish, because you'd never see it, but that day up would come all these army cars. You never saw cars up there. It'd be all deuce and ass and jeeps and stuff like that, 3/4 tons. And boy, I'll tell you, was there some dressing down. They even told me to get the hell out of the camp. There's going to be trouble. I remember seeing one day there too, they hit this RCAT with anti-aircraft guns, and they must have punctured the gas tank, and the parachute deployed, but the engine didn't shut off. And it caught fire. Well, immediately the parachute burnt out. And the RCAT was out of control, and it was heading towards the harbor in a spin, running wide open. This thing would run, I think 300 miles an hour. This plane, it would be like smaller than a Cessna, because nobody rode in it. But here's this thing out of control, heading for the harbor in a spin, on fire. Well, I'll tell you, the ambulance and everything else just headed lickety-split for that harbor, and it crashed in the rocks off of the harbor. Lots of times I used to hang around the camp, and I'd watch these RCATs go down. Sometimes they get hit and they'd lose them and they'd go back in the bush. I used to love to go back with the soldiers and search for these airplanes, hoping that if I find one, then they'll give me something. They'll give me a parachute, or they'll give me some part, Because I had thought some soldiers that they'd give me one, and I had one down at the cottage, and I was always scrounging parts for it, But I never did get an engine. They were hard to come by. They'd give me one that had quite a few shrapnel holes in it. But it used to be a lot of fun, and on the days that their any aircraft guns weren't shooting, then they'd get out 50 caliber machine guns, M2s, and the crash boat would tow out a raft way out into the lake with 45-gallon drums on. They'd shoot at it. I remember one day I was down there, and I used to let soldiers go for rides on my bicycle, and I would trade cartons of milk from them when the vehicle came around with, for a break for fellas, it was cartons of milk and cigarettes and stuff. I'd trade cartons of milk for rides on my bicycle, and I'd get into the chow line, and I'd get kicked out of the chow line. But anyways, this day they're shooting 50 caliber, and I used to have my own shotgun. Oh gosh, for my 11th birthday, I got my first shotgun for partridge hunting. So I thought I could shoot. So the fellow said, "Would you like to try that?" Well, I could tell just the way they were shooting; they weren't getting anywhere near their target. So I figured these guys are terrible shots. So I said, "Sure, I'd love to." So I jump up in the box and I line up with this 50 caliber heavy machine gun, and a big hand lands on my shoulder, and it's the sergeant. He said, "Son, not today." He said, "You're going to have to go back behind the firing line." Yeah, but I was ready to
You were
give
ready,
it, Don. I had my old thumbs on the butterfly, and I was going to give them a lesson in shooting. Well, I didn't get a chance to shoot a 50 caliber until 2 or 3 years ago, but I went down to Second Chance Combat Shoot in Central Lake, Michigan, and they shoot them down there. Hobbyists bring down some pretty heavy stuff there, and they shoot them at this range in Central Lake, Michigan. And I enjoyed it, and I was pretty good with it too, but I don't know how I would have been at 11, because I never got a chance to let her go. But I was close.
Well,
I was
did
real
fishing
close.
vessels come in and out while they were having their practices there?
Yeah, but they ran pretty stringent safety. If there were any vessels out there at all, it was a general ceasefire.
Uh-huh.
So if their horizons were clear, and they had a large tower there,
I see. Okay.
if their horizons were clear, then they were all set.
Yeah.
And they had a big radar installation at the north end of the camp. Well, you know where you can see the lake past Mamance Harbor, there,
Mhm,
2 miles
mhm,
on the
mhm,
left? You
mhm.
go through where Eddie Drew used to live there on the left, in that burnt cabin?
Oh, the
That
burnt
wrecked
cabin?
house on
Yeah,
the right?
yeah.
That's where the camp started, in there on the left, and went right through to where you saw Lake Spear on the left,
Uh-huh.
which would be 1/8 of a mile, 1/4 of a mile.
Uh-huh.
And they had a complete camp there,
How many years did you say that was?
25, 30 years ago. Yeah, complete
For,
camp.
for how long a period of time?
Oh, quite a period of time.
Is that right?
There was old stone buildings when I was there, like old foundations. It
Uh-huh.
must have gone back 30, 40 years before that. No, I don't
Hmm.
know if the Canadian military used that for training, what the hell it was used for, or whether it was a old mining installation.
Any particular reason why it was abandoned that you know of?
Yeah, surface-to-air missiles.
No. Technology.
Technology. They don't need anti-aircraft guns anymore. You see very few. Now they use phalanx gun as a last resort. Usually they use surface-to-air missiles now, as far as I know. Now they didn't have radio communications from Point Mamance to Camp Lucas, so they ran a line coming down
Where's Camp Lucas?
in Sioux, Michigan.
In the Sioux.
Sioux, Michigan,
Sioux,
where
Michigan.
Lake State University is. That was
Oh.
all Army camp.
Oh.
Camp Lucas.
Where the university is there now.
So they used to have a line coming down to right across from Emerson Grant's place, Poplar Grove. That's where their radio installation was.
Mm-hmm.
And the soldiers used to have to set this line up going all the way to Mamance Harbor, which I guess would be maybe 7 miles or so. They hated climbing the damn poles because they get halfway up and the damn pole would fall down. The existing poles, telephone poles. I remember there used to be some fellows there. One guy was Lyle Stepp from Miami, Oklahoma, and Simon Fry. I don't know where Simon was from. He used to come down to the cottage all the time and visit and that. He used to visit my sister and my cousin, Carol McCauley.
Oh, yeah?
You know Macaulay's
From
Hotel,
at,
Carol McCauley.
Harmony or
Haviland.
Haviland?
Haviland Bay Hotel. She was the same age as my sister. They used to date these soldiers. So soldiers come in to date them, and then I'd be into their army truck, and I'd be playing like a son of a bitch in their army truck, and jeeps, and they had everything in there but tanks. Our cottage and back there in the bush would look like an army camp in the evening, because my dad would have a fish fry going, and I don't know, these soldiers would be in to visit the girls and that, and my dad knew a lot of commanding officers there, and he was in the booze business, and at that time, there was a big brewery strike. But they knew all the soldiers well, so any any beer that they wanted, they got it because my dad was a good friend of Sergeant Arrington's who ran the PX. So on the Soldiers coming to visit my sister, well, I exacted a case of Heath candy bars and I let them go play in their truck for a while and all. And you know how these soldiers are, they'd say, well, what do you need? And I'd say, geez, I need a battery for my flashlight. Do you have any batteries? They bring me batteries, they bring me a whole case of batteries. It'd be this high, Don. Let's see, it'd be this long and it'd be this wide. So there'd be 10 by 20, there'd be 200 batteries in the damn box.
That would last you a while, eh?
What the hell would I do with 200 batteries? Oh, it's useless. But I had a lot of fun in those days because there was a lot going on. I'd bicycle back and forth.
Hey, I've taken too much of your time here, Jerry.
You got to get home.
But I appreciate it. And, one of these days, why, I'll...
But my son's almost the same age as me. I'm afraid that he crosses the highway, walk across. And I'd jump on my bike and I'd be gone for the day. I'd either be gone back in the bush with my shotgun and my dog for the whole day and I'd come back after dark. Or I'd be gone down to the army camp for the day.
And you survived it.
Yeah.
Well, sons.
Like I'd be gone the whole bloody day and I'd be armed and I'd have a box of shells and this and that. And
Oh,
yeah.
Different perspective.
yeah, now we gotta go out there and watch when he goes across the highway, make sure he doesn't get himself run over and oh God, Don.